The plane hummed quietly as it soared through the silver clouds. It was a first-class cabin where people spoke in whispers, and even the clinking of glasses sounded expensive. In seat 3A sat Ethan Cole, a 38-year-old billionaire CEO, the kind of man everyone envied, but no one truly knew. His company's stock was at an all-time high. Magazines called him the king of innovation. But behind that polished smile and designer suit was a man hollowed out by loneliness. He'd buried his wife, Amelia, 3 years ago, and with her he'd buried every reason to feel. The flight attendants greeted him politely, but he only nodded. He never smiled. He didn't even look out the window anymore. Every flight was just another escape, another way to stay too busy to think. He loosened his tie, ordered black coffee, and closed his eyes, praying for the hours to pass quickly. Then, a small voice interrupted his silence. He opened his eyes. Standing in the aisle was a little girl, maybe 6 years old, with messy pigtails, bright brown eyes, and a stuffed unicorn clutched her chest. "This is first class, sweetheart," the flight attendant said gently. "Your seat's in the back." But before she could lead her away, Ethan spoke. "It's fine. She can sit here for a minute." The little girl climbed into the empty seat beside him, smiling wide. "Thank you, mister." He nodded politely, unsure what to do. After a moment, she tilted her head and asked in the most innocent voice imaginable, "Why are you so sad?" He blinked, startled. "What makes you think I'm sad?" She shrugged. "Because your eyes look like when my mommy cries in the kitchen." Something inside Ethan cracked, just a little. He forced a laugh. "You're very observant." She grinned. "My teacher says I notice things other people don't." Ethan smiled faintly for the first time in months. "What's your name?" "Lila," she said proudly. "I'm flying to see my grandma. Daddy's already in heaven." The words hit him like a wave. "I'm sorry," he whispered. She shrugged again. "Mommy says he watches us from the clouds. Maybe he's watching now." Ethan looked out the window, and for the first time in years, he actually looked. The sunlight shimmered over the clouds, golden and endless. He'd always hated flying, but suddenly, it didn't feel so empty anymore. Lila pulled out a drawing from her backpack, a messy crayon picture of her mom, and a man with wings. "He's an angel now," she said softly. "Mommy says I'll see him again one day, but sometimes I wish he could come home for dinner." Ethan's throat tightened. He wanted to say something comforting, but the truth was he didn't even know how to comfort himself. The intercom buzzed. "Ladies and gentlemen, please prepare for light turbulence." The plane jolted slightly. Lila gasped, clutching his arm. Without thinking, he took her hand and said softly, "It's okay. I've got you." When the shaking stopped, she smiled, but didn't let go. "You're nice. You remind me of my daddy. He used to say that too." Ethan looked down at her and realized something was changing inside him. This little girl he'd just met had seen through his walls, spoken to the broken man he'd tried to hide. And he didn't even know her last name. Hours passed, but Ethan didn't open his laptop once. He listened, really listened, as Lila talked about her mom, school, her lost tooth, and how she wanted to be a rainbow doctor so she could make people happy again. At one point, she looked at him seriously and said, "You should smile more. You look better when you do." He laughed softly. "You think so?" She nodded firmly. "Yes. My daddy used to smile even when he was sad. Mommy said that's called hope." Ethan's chest tightened. He hadn't smiled, really smiled, since the day his wife died. Airplane a memory he couldn't escape. As the flight continued, he told her about the clouds, how planes worked, and even drew a little diagram on her napkin. "Wow," she said in awe. "You're so smart. You must be a teacher or something." He chuckled. "No, I run a company." Her eyes widened. "Like a boss." "Exactly," he said, amused. "Do your workers like you?" That question hit harder than it should have. He thought of the boardroom meetings, the fake smiles, the way people whispered behind his back, "He's brilliant, but heartless." He hesitated. "I'm not sure." She frowned. "Then maybe you should be a nicer boss." He blinked. "What makes you say that?" "My teacher says people remember how you make them feel, not what you buy them." He smiled, but behind it was pain. Amelia used to say the exact same thing, the confession. When Lila fell asleep mid-flight, Her small hand still rested on his arm. Ethan sat there, staring at the clouds again, and whispered, "Amelia, I forgot how to feel anything. But this little girl, she reminds me of you." When they landed, he helped Lila and her mom, a kind woman named Rachel, collect their bags. She recognized him immediately. "Wait, you're Ethan Cole, the tech CEO?" He nodded awkwardly. "Just Ethan today." Rachel smiled faintly. "Thank you for watching over my daughter. She doesn't usually talk to strangers." "She's special," he said quietly. Lila tugged his sleeve. 2 weeks later, Ethan was in his office when his secretary rushed in. "Sir, there's a call from the hospital. It's about a little girl named Lila." His heart stopped. He drove like a man possessed, breaking every speed limit. When he arrived, he saw Rachel sitting in the waiting room, crying. "She collapsed at school," she said between sobs. "They think it's her heart." Ethan felt his knees go weak. "Can I see her?" Rachel nodded. "She kept asking for you." Inside the ICU, Lila looked so small, hooked to machines, her unicorn on the pillow beside her. When she saw him, she whispered faintly, "You came." He took her tiny hand. "Of course I did. You told me not to be a sad boss, remember?" She smiled weakly. "You look happy now." "I am," he whispered, "because I met you." She squeezed his hand. "Then don't forget me, okay? Even if I go to the clouds." Tears streamed down his face. "You're not going anywhere, Lila." But she only smiled, whispering, "Tell Mommy I love her. And keep smiling for me." The monitor beeped once, twice, and then went still. Ethan froze. His world stopped. The man who never cried broke down completely. Broken heart, the kindness she left behind. Weeks later, he attended her funeral quietly, placing her unicorn beside the flowers. Rachel stood beside him, tears streaming. "She adored you," she whispered. Ethan nodded. "She saved me." He later created a children's foundation in her name, the Lila Hope Foundation, to help kids with heart conditions. And every year on her birthday, he boarded a plane, sat in seat 3, looked out the window, and smiled through tears. One evening, Rachel joined him for that flight. She placed her hand on his and said softly, "She'd be proud of you." He smiled faintly. "She is. I can feel it." As the plane soared through the clouds, sunlight burst through, painting everything gold. Ethan whispered, "You were right, Lila. The clouds do have angels." Clapperboard final CTA for your faceless storytelling Chan. He was a billionaire with everything, yet felt nothing. Girl, until a little girl on a plane taught him how to feel again. Broken heart, she left too soon, but her kindness became his forever legacy. Red heart, because sometimes strangers save us without even knowing it. Backhand Index Pointing Right. Subscribe for more realistic, heart-touching kindness stories that remind us. Every act of love changes someone's world.